Hi, I'm Glenn Hughes.
And I'm Ed Muzio.
For 3 decades, I've been working inside a publicly traded company.
And for over a decade, I've been an entrepreneur supporting companies like Glenn's from the outside.
In this series, we look at the problems and challenges of the modern workplace
And provide our ideas and advice.
From the inside
and out. Do you have a mentor? It's a big thing, mentoring, and everybody either has one or wants to be one. Glenn, I have a job. I have employees and managers, but how do I find a mentor?
Well, first, let's clarify what mentoring is. And the way we often discuss this is there's a lot of confusion between a teacher, a coach, and a mentor. And the differences are actually pretty clear. A teacher is someone who knows content, who knows theories, who knows models, and delivers those to a student.
They give you the content.
Yeah, they talk, you listen.
Right.
They don't necessarily have experience in it. We can see marketing professors who've never been a marketing lead in a corporation, and your history teacher certainly wasn't at the Battle of 1812. So they delivered the theory.
Mine was, but that's a different story.
Well, yours may have been. The second one is I'll go to the extreme, is the coach. The coach has no content and no experience. And what they have is a framework for discussing, probing, questioning, and helping you think through the problem. They're assuming that you have the content, and it's very much you talk more and they listen.
So how's that working for you, basically?
Yes, exactly, Dr. Phil. The middle ground is the mentor. The mentor has experience. They may not actually know the theories and the frameworks, but they were there in the trenches. They won over that customer in Japan, or they built that company from scratch. And what they can do is sit and tell you, Ed, here's how I did it. Here's where I failed. Here's my network. Here's my experiences. If you want to be like me, here's the path that I led.
So what you're defining the question to be is, how do I find someone who's done it so I can learn from them? Which begs the question first of whatever the it is. So how do I find someone that's done what I want to learn about so I can learn from them?
In a way, I want to do it, which is real interesting, right? So not just if I want to be a CEO, should I find a mentor who's actually been a CEO, but do I want to become a CEO the way they're a CEO?
Because that's the only way they know. That they're going to show you how they did it, not what the models are.
Absolutely, and by the way, your mileage may vary, right? Because they did it 10 or 15 years ago, probably. So an interesting question that I want to ask you is, do you have a mentor? And if so, how did you find yours?
I've had a number of them over the years. I have one major one who is my predecessor in my current business. I purchased part of the business from him. And I found him when I was fairly young and not sure what I wanted to do. And I watched him give a presentation, one that I now give, and caught him afterwards and said, I think I might want to do this someday. Now, this sounds easy to talk about now, but I was like a third-year engineer talking about doing management and culture consulting. So it was pretty far reach. And he said, I'll have lunch with you. And he did, and that began our relationship, and it wasn't a linear relationship. We had lunch and didn't talk for maybe a year, and then we would connect again. And then as I got further into it, I think he noticed that I was actually really going that way. And so he would reach out, or I would reach out, and over time it got closer and closer until finally, over the last 5 years, we were co-developing simulations, and then we were transitioning his business as he retired over to me. That's been one of the most personally satisfying relationships of my life, as well as one of the most positive business relationships of my life, in that order.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like I sat down with him at lunch and said, I want you to be my mentor, because I didn't know where I was going and he didn't know where I was going. It just sort of grew organically. That's not a great answer for someone on the inside in a corporation who's basically saying, I'm looking around wanting to find a mentor. If my answer is let it happen organically, that may never happen. Is there a better answer?
Well, I think the key lesson in yours is you knew what you wanted and you approached the person. Right.
I think continuing contact at some level is useful too. Those are all good things. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a continuum of this. There have been a few times in my career, upon reflection, where someone senior to me started a conversation with me, and at the time I didn't know it, but looking back, I can say that they were offering their mentoring to me. Right. I was a service manager for the first time. A number of senior service managers would sit down with me at lunch and have discussions and things, and they never said, Glenn, I'm here to mentor you, be like me. But they did offer insights and things, and sort of organically I resonated with certain types of personalities and would end up calling on them. In those cases, they approached me informally, started discussions, never said I was your mentor. There are these, corporate programs where they try to match two people.
I've been through one of those.
Yeah, had very little success with those because again, it comes down to, do I want to do what you do in the way that you do it? And the odds that an outside person is going to find that match is risky, right? Not that there's not value and not that you can't find some common ground.
The one that I went through wasn't bad. When I was on the inside, and it was sort of, there was some discovery about what you wanted to learn, and there was a matching process, and there was more discovery with the mentor, and I got some real value out of it in what I would define as a limited window, but it wasn't a lifelong relationship.
Right.
Maybe what you're saying is people sort of open the door for you. Either you knock on it and they open it, or they just open it. And it's good to recognize when the door opens. It's also okay not to walk through it, in a sense, right? To have one conversation and let it stop there. I had a senior person one time when I was on the inside who I think did the same thing, and he sort of set it up by saying, if you want to have a career like mine, I can give you some advice. And I had a lot of respect for this guy. He was a great guy, very upfront. I didn't want his career, and even at my young age, I knew that. And so I was very polite with him, and I talked to him a couple times, but I also knew that wasn't my road. Right. And I think having that level of self-knowledge was useful to me because it didn't distract me with sort of more of what I didn't want.
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult concept for a lot of our audience, is when a senior executive at your company offers to mentor you, there's part of you that just I want to be around this person. Maybe I want to have lunch with them every week. Maybe this will fast track my career. When the important question is, do I want to do what this person does in the way that they're doing it? Now, that's not to say don't have lunch with them.
Well, there's networking too.
Networking
if you're
is
clear,
great,
you can say, who else would I meet? That kind of thing, that's good. But it may not be the same as sort of following that person around.
The other mistake I see people make is that when they're looking for a mentor, they're looking for their personal Yoda. Right, they're looking for this all-being person who's going to guide my life and my finances and my marriage and all these things. And you might find your Yoda, but it's very unlikely to come in a one-off mentoring relationship.
All they can really do is show you the road they've been on, and you have to decide how that road applies to you in the current time frame and the current challenges with your personality, not theirs. And you can't expect too much, I think, in a sense.
Well, what I've referred to now with people is serial mentoring, is find an area you want to grow, find someone who's done it before you, focus your mentoring on that range, and get your mentoring. And it might be a 3-month, a 6-month, a 1 year. Get a second mentor, get a third mentor, maybe even have 3 mentors at once in areas A, B, and C. And as you build your mentoring relationships and your learning and your network, you will eventually probably find your Yoda. I've found a couple of them, and one of them, to viewers who are familiar, he's literally a Yoda, is Tyagi. And much like you, I approached Tyagi because I loved his way of learning, of facilitating groups and all. And I saw him at a conference, and I just started a series of conversations with him. And now he's a mentor of mine that I know at any given time I can pick up the phone and call and bounce ideas off of. I want to be like him, doing the same work that he's doing, although I do it internally. And so I have found a couple of those people who've become sort of my Yodas, but not because I looked and said, there's my Yoda.
Yeah, I think that's a sort of a Hollywood, it's sort of like the Hollywood romance movies where it doesn't really go that way.
Right.
It's a lot more organic, it's a lot less structured, and I think that's maybe, the broader piece of advice is, if the reason you want a mentor is a reason, pursue a mentor and also think of other ways to solve that problem, other things that would help you, development opportunities, learning, class, whatever it is, because you should figure that, any of those may get you where you're going, and it's not about the how, it's about the what. That's probably a good place to start too.
So how did you find your mentor?